Welcome, pool guys and gals, to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast, where your host, Lauren Broom, will take a splash into many topics in the pool industry to educate all aquatic professionals. Listen in, and you just might be surprised what you'll learn. So let's jump right in.
Welcome, everybody, today to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. And on today's episode 63, I interviewed Niki Acosta with Skimmer, and we spoke in depth about their new State of the Pool Service 2025 report that they came out. It's very comprehensive. I want you to read that report, but also listen into this episode as well, because we just bring up a lot of discussions as it relates to what they got out of this awesome report. So they're trying to give more back to the pool professional, the pool pro, than just the standard software route management app. So please take a look at their State of the Pool Service Report 2025. It's free. You can download it from their website. They've had it shared on social media. But Niki really hones in on everything that they found. They have a lot more information in it this year than they did last year even. It gets better and better every year. And I want to say thank you to Skimmer for being an awesome strategic podcast sponsor for over 4 years now. So really appreciate your support of supporting education through the podcast to the pool industry. And let's continue moving forward and educating our pool pros. I hope you guys enjoy this episode and jump right in after this short announcement from Skimmer.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Join the 30,000 plus pool pros upgrading their business. Visit getskimmer.com/Lauren Broom to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
Welcome, everybody, today to the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. And on today's episode, I'm so excited to have Niki Acosta on again this year. She's the director of marketing with Skimmer. And of course, Skimmer is my strategic podcast sponsor. So I'm so very thankful to have them with the podcast for 4 years now, listeners. That's amazing. They've been along the whole time I've started this podcast. They've been my main podcast sponsor, and I'm very thankful to Skimmer for that very much. And I'm thankful for what they do for the industry as well. So I'm so excited to have you on today, Niki.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and thank you for all the great work that you do in the industry as well.
I love bringing everybody together. That's what I like to do with the podcast, and just in general, as a person, everybody has something to bring to the table, and we can all work together and that kind of thing. And that's just really what my personality is about. So I love having you guys on and getting to talk to you all the time as well because of the podcast. It's always a pleasure. And that's why you guys do so well as well. I think that people know that, they feel that from your company. So we're here today to talk about the State of the Pool Service report that you guys did. You did it last year, and we talked about it last year on the podcast, and it's been a whole year again. So we're here to talk about the report from 2025. So tell us a little bit about the report.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the report. So we just launched our 2025 State of Pool Service report, and to our knowledge, it is the largest and most comprehensive survey and report in the pool service and repair industry. And so our goal here with this report is to be able to provide guidance, to be able to track trends that might be happening in the industry, and to educate people in the industry about what's happening in the industry and how they can grow their businesses or, stay up to date on the latest trends, or even things like feel comfortable raising prices, right? There was a whole big section in our report that asked about pricing. And so there are a lot of really cool standout things that we found in the report. I would say overall, we're kind of in a period of what I would say is tempered optimism. You know, we certainly looked at some third-party data as well and brought that into the report. And one of the cool things was that, search terms across Google for pool building, pool cleaning, pool repair are back above pre-pandemic levels. So there was the pandemic boom, then things kind of dropped, and now we're seeing search terms go up again, which is a good sign. It's not, it's not a perfect indicator, but it is an indicator that folks are still interested in building pools, still want, companies to come and service their pools and repair their pools. So a big opportunity there. I think looking at some of the data that we collected, there were over 50 questions that we asked. And, some of those things were new to the report. Like we dug a little bit deeper into labor trends. Are you hiring contractors? Are you hiring employees? There's some questions around seasonality. And we were able to get a lot of good data and establish labor as a section that we'll be able to focus moving forward. So, because there are a lot of questions about labor. Are you hiring contractors? Are you hiring employees? How are you paying them? Is it hourly? Is it salary? Is it by the pool? And over time, what we're hoping to do is kind of break this down into kind of an interactive report where you could just look at responses by your state and be able to just kind of zoom in a little bit more. So there's big plans for this moving forward. We're also launching our first consumer study this year. We're about to launch that, where we're going to go out and we're going to talk and interview pool owners to see what they care about and what they want. We're certainly seeing a rise in automation, like more pool owners want automation. And that could be a potential great source of revenue for people who do repair work and installation work and for builders out there. We want to kind of understand the pool owners better. How are they finding pool service and repair people? What are the things that they care about? Do they have preferences when it comes to brands and equipment? What we gather is that, very few people who are building pools actually know about chemistry, right? And so there's an opportunity there, I think, for people to be able to differentiate with great technology.
It's very insightful. That report will actually give a lot of good information and data to the pool builders and the pool service contractors as well, because then they'll know what the owners are looking for across the board. And then you're probably going to have it broken down by region, kind of like your pool service report that you have now, where they like the pricing thing. My understanding is they can go down to like zip code level, I think, or at least county level with that report. Because I'm on the pool deck community that you guys established, which if you haven't joined that community that Skimmer built, it's free to join, I believe, to be in the group. Without using Skimmer, and they have regional groups as well, where you can talk about these very topics in those regional groups. And then they even have Zoom meetups that I've been in a few. And a lot of what you just brought up got into more detail, and it really it was a great conversation starter for the groups. And even when you're locally, talking between each other, if you're friendly and you're talking about price increases and all that kind of stuff. So I think that hearing from the pool customers, you're going to really pull in that information, like which company brand do they want more than others. That's really going to be really good for your contractors so that they understand what their customers want, and they will work with those vendors to get the automation or the brands that they're looking for. So I think it's very insightful. It gives us good information so that they can plan for the next year as well on what they want to do, add things to their business, all kinds of, it's awesome because it's so broad. You got so many different categories in that report. And then you're going to have that new report that you talked about, which is going to give that new insight for us understand the pool owners, but also to understand what they're looking for.
Totally.
So you kind of explained the why for the report. So who does the report benefit?
Everyone in the industry, really. I mean, anyone who's doing pool service or repair, builders who are thinking about getting into pool service and repair, manufacturers are trying to figure out what it is that people want. we had a question about brand preferences in here and what your favorite tools are. And we consistently see, folks like Primate and Riptide kind of topping out that list. We've got Pentair as the favorite equipment brand by a pretty large margin, followed by Hayward and Fluidra. We were also very lucky this year in that we partnered with Arenda and Heritage to get the survey out to more people because we wanted people who just weren't Skimmer customers. But we asked a lot of questions about technology and software. And what we're finding is that there is maturity happening amongst the pool service industry. Like people are adopting software, they are using data to make decisions. They are becoming more sophisticated. One of the things that people keep asking us for is an API. They want to be able to take, the data that Skimmer collects and extend it to other platforms, whether that's, a CRM or something else. So we try to do as much as we can in our software, but we can't be experts at everything. And so having an idea of what it is that people are looking for in terms of software and how they're managing their teams and how they're handling billing is very useful for us as well. And so there's a benefit for us really, really diving deep and understanding the market. And a lot of what we produce guides our content for the year too. So we've done some really, really great webinars on things like price increases and, marketing and a lot of these sort of aspects of the business that not everyone may be an expert in. And what we're finding is that as these pool companies mature, they are looking for partners to help them in that growth, whether that's, a marketing partner. We work a lot with Pool Monopoly out of Phoenix. And they've been really, really great in helping us create good content and helping people understand what's happening in marketing land.
They're awesome. They're awesome. I've had them on the podcast too.
Yeah, Ryan Flannery over there. I mean, the Google algorithms and the social media stuff, it's always changing, right? And so, the goal is not for us to make experts out of every pool service company owner, but to give them confidence in finding good partners that can help them if they want to grow via marketing. And what we're seeing in marketing has been interesting too. People used to use platforms, lead sharing platforms like, Yelp or Angie or Thumbtack. We're seeing a big drop in those. And we're seeing a lot more people do Google advertising and Meta advertising. And so, if you are a pool service company that wants to grow, it's kind of great to understand which channels are working for people and which ones aren't.
Yep, I totally agree. And I've seen that shift too in the more social media and Google AdWords, because you can basically hone into your audience if you know what you're doing, and you can basically get you pay by the click, but you can hone into, those that have pools and stuff like that. I mean, I use social media advertising as well as, and I'm a totally different kind of business. And it really helps. It really helps. And I think that I've seen people and heard people talk about like leaving Yelp and Angie's List and different lead platforms like that because they were finding that they weren't getting as much out of it as they had hoped.
Yeah, look, those are platforms that will take your money and then they get a lead and they share it with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other people, and whoever can answer the phone the fastest or even worse, you're competing on price instead of value. They're just not as high quality leads than ones that you might find from your own marketing efforts that you're not sharing with other people. Like obviously you're sharing, the platform space, like Pool Monopoly, if they are saturated in an area, what they don't want is their own customers competing against each other and driving the cost of those leads up. So they've been very mindful in limiting the amount of people that they will work with in any region to make sure that, they're not competing against themselves, right? Or putting their own companies against each other and really driving up that cost.
So what did we learn from the report this year versus last year? Like, let's get into like the price. You talked about pricing. That's a hot topic right there, like raising prices. What did we find in that category there?
So I think there was a little bit of shift in sentiment. People expected to make more money than they actually did. But we also saw that a good number of people are increasing prices. And, one of the things that we were looking at as well in this price mix was the role of private equity coming into the pool space. So obviously, with these larger companies, these well-organized companies that have huge marketing budgets, we wanted to understand the sentiment in the industry of what that means for our industry. Some people see it as a great thing because these companies will come in, they're, very professional, very branded, and they charge a lot, right? Like, they're looking to maximize revenue in every aspect of the business and get more revenue for things like repairs and preventative maintenance. And so that could be a good thing for our industry. On the other hand, when you have some of these large companies just come in and think that they can have a one size fits all approach for everyone in the country, that can be a detriment because pool service in Florida looks different than it does in Phoenix, looks different than it does in New York, looks different than it does in Texas. And so even when it comes to what kind of chemicals can be used in certain areas or preferred in other areas, like there's not a one size fits all approach. You're dealing with weather, you're dealing with bodies of water that are exposed to the elements where you have different weather patterns and different vegetation. And so I think it's very, very difficult to scale quality when you have some of these factors at play. This is not everyone saying like, oh, we're going to do to, full service what we did to pest control. Well, pest control is pretty cut and dry. You're going to go in, you're going to spray the outside, you're going to spray the inside. It's pretty same, right? Like, the amount of chemicals that you keep on your truck. Okay, you might have stuff for termites and stuff for indoors and stuff for outdoors and maybe one that's safe for pets. Who knows? When you're talking about pools, like it is a
Very variable. Very
yeah.
variable.
And that variability, I think, is what lends itself to pool service companies, these small businesses. It gives them an opportunity to thrive because they're experts in their area. They understand the weather. They know, what chemicals they need to use, like for their particular area. They know when pollen season hits. They know when leaves are going to fall. Like there's a level of local expertise and regional expertise that comes along with having a smaller business service your company. That is not a diss on these large companies. There are some that are doing it pretty well. There are a lot that really care about quality and that have really great operational expertise that they can offer to their franchisees or to the companies that they acquire. But for a large part, I think this is an industry where small businesses can really, really thrive, especially if you're good, especially if you're using technology, especially if you're keeping your customers informed, especially if you're relying on digital technologies to help your customers. That's one really great thing about Skimmer, shameless plug for Skimmer, is that, it kind of ties together what's happening in the office, in the field, and with the customer and bringing that all together. And so I think consumers want that. Consumers want to know what they're paying for. They want to understand what they're paying for. They want to know that they're not getting ripped off. And so I think we have a really unique perspective and offering with this report that we can provide some insight into those buying habits and into the trends that are happening. Like pricing is the big one, right? Like we would love for our customers to feel confident in raising prices. And you're right, we have actually almost 1 million pools that are actively serviced within Skimmer. So you can imagine the amount of data that we have, like we have it on a zip code level. We don't want to publish that because we don't want your your pool owner, or your homeowner coming to you and going, hey, I saw this thing online and you're charging me, $300 and it says the average in my area is only $219. Like, why are you doing that? Like, we don't want to create kind of that environment, but we are in a unique position in that, there are antitrust laws that prevent pool service companies from getting together and dictating market pricing or discussing market pricing. But we're not a pool service provider. We're a software provider. So those same kind of rules don't apply to us. We are able to share our platform data with people. And it's really, really insightful. Like the platform data we have, it shows you like, the low, the high, and then kind of the average. So we're looking at the 10th percentile, the 45th percentile, the 55th percentile, and like the 90th percentile of pricing and putting that together in something that we are able to share with our customers and our prospects to help them understand like where they should be priced or what feels good to them. And you're always going to have the low cost providers. We know that. You're always going to have the premium providers. But it is helpful, I think, for people to understand what's in the middle. Like if you're a one poler out there, and you're charging, $100 or $120 a month, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because I promise your competitors out there and the more professional companies are charging a lot more. And so I would say, if your customers love you and they're happy to see you in their yard and you know them by name and you've been at servicing their pool for, 10 years and you haven't really been increasing prices, do it. Like increase your prices. If they love you as much as you think they do, they will not mind and they will totally understand. Like everything's more expensive. Chemicals are more expensive. Parts are more expensive. Like everything is more expensive. You should be paid what you're worth and know your value and be able to provide, a service at a price that's fair.
And they really have to think and be fair to themselves because they've got families at home. They've got to put food on the table. They need to charge appropriately for what's going on right now. And looking at your report will help them figure that out and see that I can charge more and I will be able to support my family. And they all deserve that. They're all hardworking, very smart pool pros in our industry.
They are. And one thing where we see a lot of price variability are things like preventative maintenance, right? Like, the amount that some of these larger companies are charging for things like filter cleanings or salt cell cleanings or, UV heater maintenance is really, really high. But pros just kind of see that as like, there's some people who think like, oh, it's just extra money. I'm just gonna, do it super cheap. Like, no, like, there's materials involved, there's, labor involved, there's, scheduling involved, and you need insurance and you need gas and you need, all these other things. Like that is an opportunity where I think a lot of people have an opportunity to increase the revenue without even adding more customers, right? Like charge the market rate for things and whatever that market rate may be, shop your competitors and find out, but charge for that time. Because guess what? If they go and they try to shop other people, they're going to find that like there are quite a few companies that are charging a lot more for those preventative maintenance services.
And that's another, benefit that they can have from your reading the report. So, I mean, it's so encompassing, and we're just talking about one specific topic in the report. It's so comprehensive. You could be reading it like all day.
Yeah,
You got so many because you asked so many questions in it. So you could almost find a pool pro could almost find anything in that report that they're like wanting to know more info about to, see if they are where they need to be with their business. That's the whole point of the report, right? Is
totally. Yeah, like
understanding like I'm not charging enough. I should be charging more. I could do this. I didn't, and some of them might not even think about like the preventative maintenance and charging appropriate amount for that kind of thing. So it gives us that conversation piece, right? To be able to have and they start thinking about what they can do. And it benefits the industry because we're helping our smaller businesses even that are not the big ones that we're talking about. I'm sure the big ones certainly know and have done these similar type of analysis. But when you're a one pooler or you're a small, business where you might have 5 pool techs and 1 repair technician, you don't have time to like compile this report. You're just trying to get everything done day to day. So having you guys do this report and doing this, I mean, the survey takes time, and then you have to take all that data and analyze it and put it together to make this report. So it wasn't something that was cheap to do for Skimmer. It's not something that totally benefits you either because you're a route software. You're not like out there doing service. So I hope the industry understands that it's an awesome tool that you guys are compiling and putting together to give to the industry. I look at it as kind of an education piece,
totally.
since that's my kind of corner of the industry that I kind of hang out in. And the podcast to me is that education. So we're letting them know if they don't go online, I go on Facebook. I've seen the state of the service report and there's a link and I can click on it and it'll take me there. Every time I'm on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I think different platforms, Meta owns Instagram, so it shows on there too. So just click on that and it'll take you to this very comprehensive report that we're talking about. And we're not done talking about it yet, Nikki.
Yeah, and I'll add the report is free. Like this is a free resource that has so much good information. And if you want to raise prices, great. We linked resources to the guide on how to do that. If you're looking at wanting to spend on marketing, which we're seeing a lot of people increasing their marketing budgets. Like, great, we have a guide on that that's linked in the report. So we offer all these free resources because we want to elevate the industry. We want to help empower people to build great businesses. And the way that you're going to do that is to research. We spend a lot of money at Skimmer. We've spent a lot of money on third-party research, to understand the market, where the pools are, income ranges of pool owners, like, how that plays into whether or not they hire pool service or not. Like, we've gone out and spent all this money and there isn't really a ton of great data out there. There's not a lot of people who are going out and really honing in on this industry, this niche, and providing, insight into what's happening. And so I think it's been a really, really cool thing that I'm certainly proud, when our state of pool service report comes out, because, I learn things too. Like, going through the data, I'm just like, whoa, that's a surprise, or whoa, that's neat. And like I said, we want to keep making the report better, which is why we're starting to dig deeper into labor, and we're asking questions about private equity entering the market and what that means, and the pros and cons of bringing on, private equity investments, because private equity is kind of a bad word in this industry right now, and it doesn't need to be, right? Like,
No.
I think there is an opportunity. There are opportunities that come along with private equity. Like, in your area, if a company that you compete with gets acquired by a private equity firm, it could be good or bad. And there's an opportunity to make moves when that happens, or build up a business and sell it to a private equity firm. Like, these companies typically have deep pockets. They're looking for established businesses with hundreds of pools. And what we learned from our research is it gets really, really hard to scale a pool business when you have like one or two techs on your team. Like, that's where a lot of people get stuck. So we want to help people through software, through data, through research, through content, to kind of get over that hurdle and help our businesses that are hungry and that want to grow become those 200, 300, 400, 500,000 pool companies that are worth a lot of money, a lot of money.
Well, and the private equity thing, if we talk about that really quick, it's also positive in that they're looking for those companies that are established. And a lot of those, eventually the owner is going to be ready to retire. There's probably nobody in the family that wants to take the business or wants to continue doing that. So it gives them the ability to get a nice retirement amount out of selling the business to the private equity company, who has deep pockets that will probably pay more than somebody else. Otherwise, they'd have to try to sell it on their own, or they lose certain amount through selling it through, brokers that are selling routes and stuff like that. They might have to break it into parts, and it becomes more difficult. So if somebody comes in, swoops in, they got deep pockets and they're willing, and you're ready to retire, that's one of the nice big options that we have. I don't think we really had years ago, because there wasn't a lot of private equity firms involved in the pool industry. So it was selling routes. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of too, and I'm sure you got this out of your report, so it's a conversation piece, is I'm seeing a lot of the smaller companies, one pollers, and they grow their business, they grow the number of pools, and then they are selling like a small route on their own. So they're
Totally.
selling 20, 30 pools off. So they're building up routes and then selling them to somebody that maybe is coming in as a new business, and they don't want a full route. They just want something that's affordable, that's maybe 10, 15, 20 pools, not more than that, to kind of give them something, and then they can get word of mouth out from those. So I've been seeing a lot of that. I see a lot of the young ones like really moving fast, growing their routes, and then I see them up on, different places selling them, and then they're making money from that. And they're young. I mean, there's one down here that's like 21, and he's doing great, and he's doing that. And then he starts up another area. And
Yep.
so,
We we totally see that. We see people that build up a business, provide great service, kind of get a good structure in place, get all their customers on auto pay, make sure that they have clean books, and then sell it. And then they go and do it again and again and again and again. And it's a good way to make money, but it's you're also helping, grow a business for someone else, which is so cool, right? Like the opportunity to provide someone with their American dream. Like that's such a American thing, right? Like whether
Yep.
you buy your way into pool service or you start from scratch, or if it's your family business, or you're a private equity backed firm with dozens of locations across the US, there's a lot of room for growth, and there's a lot of opportunity in the industry. And so what I would tell people who are kind of thinking about their longer term plans is think about your valuation. Like, what is your company worth? And the way that most people are calculating that is they're taking that monthly service rate and they're multiplying it by a factor of 10, 12.
Yep.
These private equity firms, if you've got hundreds of pools and you are dominant in your market, they're willing to pay a lot more. So there is a good opportunity, but even something like a modest price increase, can really boost your company value, because you're taking that amount that you're making every month and you're multiplying it times 10 or 12. Like that's even a $20 price increase, or a $15 price increase, or a $10 price increase. And what we're finding is that a lot of people that do price increases don't have the amount of churn that they expect to.
Yep.
As long as the price increase is communicated well, and if you have great relationship with your customers, you help them understand why you need to raise prices. What we're finding is that, most people experience very, very little churn when they do price increases. And if you can make an annual price increase a part of your service delivery, then it becomes a lot easier, because it's true, prices are going up on literally everything.
Yep.
A big topic that I've been hearing about, especially now that it's trade show seasons, is tariffs, right? Like whether you love them or hate them, like they have a pretty significant impact on this industry, because even for chemicals that are manufactured in the U.S., a lot of those precursor chemicals come from overseas, from places like China, right? Like so even if your stuff is like made in the USA, like not all the ingredients are from
Coming from here. Yeah.
correct. So I think there's, I was talking to a leader of a chemical manufacturer, and he was pretty blunt. He was like, look, we're for sure going to have our 4 to 5% inflationary increase, because shipping costs are more, labor's more, all the things are more. But he's like, if these tariffs hit, we could see between a 10 to 25% spike in chemical prices. And then for manufacturers who manufacture in Mexico, and then, the steel, tariffs, like all of these things are play a factor in what you are going to pay, and ultimately what your customers are going to pay for service and repair. So it's something that we're certainly keeping an eye on. I think just like other industries, folks are kind of in a wait and see kind of holding pattern. But I would say that, if you were in this industry, and you are thinking about doing a price increase, to make sure that you're factoring that in, or look at other ways to maybe to have a buffer against those kinds of things that you can't control. Like maybe that means that you move to a model where you charge for chemicals separately, or change your pricing model, to make sure that you're charging for specialty chemicals that tend to be a little bit more costly.
That's excellent. And that you learned all that from the report and the questions that you asked. That's awesome. So what other, I know we talked a lot about pricing. What else, like category wise, did you like have an aha moment from the report? Was there like anything on education with companies, or like what brands they were leaning towards, or any other insightful marketing type things? Let's talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
outside of pricing. I know pricing's a big deal in raising prices, the tariffs and all that stuff. Let's, you know, what else is in the report that was kind of
I
cool?
think, yeah, well, Pentair again, leads the pack as far as favorite brands. They're at when we asked what is your preferred equipment brand, 48% said Pentair. And Hayward had 24%, and Fluidra had 22%, and 5% other. And so that was pretty telling. The folks at Pentair were overjoyed. I got an email yesterday that were like, "Hey, we just read the report. We shared everyone. We're so glad you asked that question. It gives us validation." The other standout was the amount of market share that Heritage is picking up. Relative to last year, they increased they are the preferred pool store for 8% more folks than they were last year. So
They increased their footprint around the country too, opening
totally.
more locations and stuff.
I think their model is great. I think that the fact that they are so heavily focused on providing good service and hiring really good people is making a difference. There are other competitors of theirs that are now getting into the pool building space and that have divisions that do pool servicing. And I think Heritage has been very mindful of not wanting to alienate their own customer base.
Yeah.
They've also hired away a lot of really good folks that had really good relationships in some of the regions that they service. We've seen that here in Austin. They've got the best of the best people that came and brought all of their relationships with them. And so I would say that Heritage is set up pretty well to grow. And if I were, if I were trying to shop, I would definitely give Heritage a shot. Like their service is great, their pricing is fair, their delivery options are awesome, their staff is knowledgeable. They've really kind of made sure that they're analyzing data and making sure that the parts and the things that you are going to need to do a repair or a service are in stock. And so I think they're creating a good loyal customer base.
I've told them, even I see them anytime I'm on social media. So whoever's doing their social media is really doing a good job, like you guys do. I see you guys on there. So it's about that presence where people see that, and that's who they start thinking about. The other thing I think Heritage has done, and you kind of hit on it, was they're really focused, and this is a good thing. They're focused on what they do and not trying to get into other spaces that are actually their customers type of business. And that's happened with some, others. And I think that they have noticed that and are sticking to what they know. And you know what happens with business. If you start doing too many things and you become unfocused, and
Totally.
you should shrink it down. It's like if you ever watch anything about restaurants, having a really huge menu is not always the best thing for you. It's doing what you do best and having a smaller menu and keeping quality and that kind of thing. And I think you get more quality when you're not trying to do too many things at one time. And
Totally.
I think that's what they've really focused on. They've partnered with really good groups for education and different things like that. So
And
I really
what they do for the industry, like at the Western Show last week, they had a fundraiser event, which was awesome. They had a Queen cover band, and it was so packed. It was amazing. But they are raising money to help pool pros who were affected by the LA fires. And so their Heritage Cares program is just amazing. Like what they do for the industry is really, really great. You can tell that they have big hearts, at the highest level, because that trickles down into the rest of the company.
And then doing that, they bring in people that want to work for them, and people are attracted to go work there. So all the things that they're doing, they've made really good decisions, right?
I agree 100%. And we're really, really glad to be a partner of Heritage. They've been a really excellent partner for us.
Yes, I totally agree. So we talked about that. What other categories did you kind of like cool? This was good information.
Look, the pricing again, if there's anyone listening that wants that zip code level data pricing, give us a call. We can get you that data. Just have your top 3 to 5 zip codes, ready, and we can get you that data. The average price across the nation, the US, is $216 a month for routine cleaning. So that's the average price that people are charging. Again, some people are charging for chemicals separate, some are including, but we're finding that $216 is kind of the national average rate. And obviously it's going to be higher in some areas. One thing that I've learned in going to the Atlantic City show, the pool and spa show, is that pool service in the Northeast is a whole different ballgame than it is in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, it's completely different. I think it's like you think about some of the states where there's not as many pools. Pools are more of a luxury thing than it is, I just want one. So when you're in the Sun Belt states, it's like it's so hot and we all have pools. Most people. So it's like it's almost different. And then I think that drives, pricing and everything else, because there's just so many pools down here in the Sunbelt states. And then there's so many pool service companies competing against each other. And so you're trying to keep the customer, and pricing is such a big deal, right? But
Yeah.
but
And
we
then
don't want to we don't want to under the market either, because we're professionals and we've got to be paid as professionals as well. And so we got to keep that in mind.
yeah, the Northeast has some of the highest rates in the country, but they have a very, very short swim season, and it is really, really challenging to find someone who can do your pool opening and your pool closing and your service because it's not a year-round business. So there are fewer providers, but the providers that are there are tend to be a little bit larger. Like, we see a lot bigger teams, very seasonal teams that will come on, open all the pools like over the course of a couple weeks, service them for 16 to 20 weeks, and then shut them down. And so that's a very, very different uh, way of providing pool service than we would see, like you mentioned, in the Sun Belt.
That makes me think that's why the Northeast Pool Show Association, the NESPA show, does so well, is because a lot of their companies are training. That's their training period. They're not servicing pools in January when they have the conference. So they all head with their big teams because they, like you said, they're not smaller as many one pollers up there. They're big teams. They go and they all go and do training at the NESPA show because I've heard like it's comparable in size to the International Pool Show.
Oh,
And
yeah,
as
totally.
a trade show, it's the biggest regional trade show in the country.
It's massive. I mean,
It is.
it is absolutely massive. And again, the needs there are slightly different than other parts of the country, but it is a really, really fantastic show. And it's, I would say, where like the international show is they've kind of augmented by adding the deck expo. So it's, a lot of, it's not only pools, but it's like a lot of outdoor stuff.
Yep.
Uh, the NESPA show is very builder service
Yep.
repair oriented, which is,
Yeah, there's not a lot of deck people. I mean, when I was at the international show in Dallas, I had somebody trying to sell me Cutco knives.
oh yeah. Yeah. Don't give them their phone number. They will call you a lot. A lot.
So,
They'll scan your badge. They'll hunt you down until you buy something.
so what other categories was there any that you asked about that was kind of like, aha?
I'm probably going to listen to this later, Lauren, and be like, oh, I should have talked about that one thing. Look, there's over 50 pages of like, really amazing
Very
things.
comprehensive.
Yes. I think, that section on private equity, I think is definitely one worth calling out because I think there's a lot of questions as we see like money flooding into the pool service repair and build space. Like that's going to be, I think, something that has the opportunity to shift the market somewhat. I think, again, I think pool service is finally getting more sophisticated. And I've seen it since I've worked at Skimmer. When I started at Skimmer 3.5 years ago, like, there were a lot of people on pen and paper. There were a lot of, one pollers who were just, kind of technology averse and saying, I'm never going to do that. I got my own system. It works. Now we're seeing a lot of young people come into full service and repair. And these are people who were literally like born and had, iPads and phones from a very young age. Like they are technologically savvy. They understand, what it means to have good technology. I do see some of the technology offerings that are coming down the pipe. And I think there's two ways to look at this. You can either say, you know, um, that is a threat to my business. And if robots or computers or whatever, can replace me, that I'm gonna stay far away from that. The other way to look at it is, hey, this stuff is coming. There's a lot of investment happening. This presents me with an opportunity. If I can be an expert in name your platform, whether it's like the guys at Pool Attendant, like their platform is amazing. There's some really, really cool tech that's coming out to help monitor equipment and control equipment and give visibility into energy costs and usage. Like consumers are going to want that stuff. And if you are a provider in your area who's an expert at that, I think if you can stay ahead of that trend and be in the thick of it, then you're going to have some opportunities that others might not.
And see, just because of the report, it led us to have that discussion. And if we
Yeah,
didn't have that 50-page report, we wouldn't even be talking about any of this stuff right now
totally. Yeah,
on this podcast episode.
it's always it's always, there's I have to say there's so much work that goes into this report. It's like, getting the questions right, getting the survey actually configured correctly, and then like getting people to take the survey, which,
How
people,
many, okay, I want to ask about it. So how many questions were on the survey?
I think there were like 54, but some of them were like, if you answered yes to this one, then you might get other options, but
How
about 50
many
questions.
people responded to the survey?
2000.
You had
2,000 people spent, 5 to 10 minutes taking the survey. A majority of them were pool service company owners. That's
okay.
who wanted to take the survey. So a really big amount. Obviously, a majority of the people who took the survey are where the pool service companies are there in the Sun Belt. So California, Florida, Arizona, we had really high
Texas.
participation.
Did you have
And
a bunch in Texas too?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And they're
those four Sunbelt states is where we see like a big conglomerate of, that's where, if we even talk about regionality like that, and then we go back to the private equity firms, you notice that they are focusing on the Sunbelt states,
yeah, look,
not
it's
really expanding into the Northeast. Or so the Northeast companies are like, what are you talking about with private equity firms? Because I think the focus of the private equity firms is getting where there's pool service going on year round, because they can make money year round and there's more pools in the ground in those states. So they're looking at what's the best focus for them.
or what's the total addressable market as
Right.
how they're
Right.
seeing it, right? And it's
Right.
yeah, right. It's where it's hot.
And another thing with private equity firms is they are focusing a lot on customer service and giving those skills and training their employees, and they have the money to do that, and they're putting a lot into education so that they give motivation to their staff to move up, so they don't
Oh,
feel like they're just a technician.
some of these companies, their training facilities are amazing, like multiple pools, all kinds of equipment. And if you are a tech who joins a company, they actually fly you to their headquarters, like give you weeks of hands-on training so that you come out of there a pro. And they can take someone who's never done who's never touched pool equipment and make them very savvy in a very short amount of time because their training is so good and so well put together that it is a benefit, I think. And look, I've talked to pros that are like, oh, I don't want to hire people from the industry because they usually bring bad habits, and there are other people who are like, oh, this person worked at this big franchise, they probably have great skills. So there's varying opinions out there, but the training programs that these folks offer it's pretty amazing.
Almost like they have their own private internal apprenticeship programs that they have.
Totally, yeah,
Yeah, that they're doing all that kind of training, and it's like, makes us wonder, we really need like a overall like really
totally,
good apprenticeship program that actually will work with the education and the hands-on training and that kind for the service pros.
yeah,
Not even to
I
do
agree.
not even to do repairs. People are
Right.
coming in, they want to know, how do I properly brush, vacuum, handle algae, all these topics. And you get people coming in from, I knew somebody had a franchise over here and they came from the aviation industry. They had money from where they were coming from a different industry, and they are investing in the pool industry, but they didn't have any knowledge about pools. So yeah, you have to kind of think about that option there and stuff like that. So
What's funny is I can't remember where I was. I think it was I don't think it was Atlantic City. It might have been a different show, but I was talking to this guy, came to our booth and he's like, yeah, I work for, a firm and we're looking to make investments into the space. And I was like, yeah, we got to talking and he's like, yeah, I've got between 10 and 15 million to invest in the space. And so we're figuring out where we want to be and where we want to make acquisitions. And I was like, yeah, so kind of how do you foresee your business playing out? And he's like, well, we want to put like, all of these cool monitoring things and put robots in the pools and then maybe have like a pool service on demand kind of thing. And I was like, dude, that's not gonna work. Like, it's not gonna work. I was like, hey, why would you want to do that? Because one of the great things about this business, if you're doing service, is the recurring revenue that you get.
Yep.
But also you're talking about bodies of water that are exposed to the elements. Like you can't just have service on demand. Like, like your robots can only do so much, like if there's great technology out there, but people still want pool service because there's so many factors that affect water chemistry and cleanliness and debris and all the things that like you
Need
can't.
our brain. Yeah, you need our
Yeah,
brain to be able
yeah,
to deduct that and figure out what steps you're going to take to get rid of it. Or
yeah. AI can't clean a pool now, right? Like we just can't, right? There are some things that humans are just better at, and working with water, I think, is one of those things where humans are going to continue to play a role.
Yep.
You can't automate everything. You can't possibly account for everything or every single factor to put an algorithm together to keep a pool balance. Like it's just
Well, and there's just no personability, and I think that some customers care about that. They like having the same technician.
yeah, sure.
Like getting it's like going to get your hair done and you like going to the same hairdresser and you can talk about what's going on every 3 months when you get your hair done, right?
Right.
Same thing when they see their tech, if they're home at the time every week, they walk out, they talk to them. Hey, what's going on? There's personability. And I think personability is an important part of your business to make sure that you have,
Yep.
because they feel like you're in it, you're here, you're working, you're just like them. You're an everyday person
It,
just like them.
it's the service industry. Are you going to go back to a restaurant that gives you crappy service? No. Like you're going to go to the restaurants that have great food, great service, where you go in and your drink is refilled before it's even empty. Like those are the places that do well. And it's the same for pool service, right? If you show up, you do what you're supposed to do, you communicate with your customers, you're friendly, like your sky's the limit. I've seen so many small companies excel because they care
Yep.
and they care about service.
Sometimes they just like, you talk to them a little bit and they know a little bit about you and that kind of thing, then they feel like it's they trust you. You grow that trust in your
Or
customer base.
we have customers that in the months of November and December, we offer these service reports where you take a picture while you're on site and it gets emailed to the pool owner. But we have companies that tell their staff, November and December, if you guys want to make tips, take a picture of their dogs and send them pictures of their dogs in their service reports. Like people love that.
Yeah.
They love that the person that is coming into their backyard cares about their pets, right? So there's a lot of really cool, I've seen all kinds of interesting things, but I always crack up at that one. Like, hey guys, if you want tips, take pictures of those dogs, show them some love. It's
Yeah,
pretty,
because they're at work. And so they
yeah,
get to see that their pool's clean and their dog is happy and likes the technician.
right. Yeah.
So, well, was there any other things you wanted to talk about with the report?
Look, I would just say the report is so big, but it's a really great read, and it is quite beautiful. I have to say, our designer that we have on staff is so amazing and so thoughtful, and puts together these really beautiful charts and imagery. And so, if you are curious about the report, again, it's free. You can get it at getskimmer.com/state of pool service.
Excellent. And it will be in the description for this podcast episode as well. So if you can't find it, didn't get a chance to write it down, it'll be with the episode description for all the listeners that are listening. And I hope everybody really benefits from listening to this and also get some insights once they go and read the report, because I think they will. I think they're going to find something that they can pull from that report, and it's definitely going to benefit all of our pool pros. They just have to take the time to read it. And I guarantee it's worth going through all 50 pages, guys, because they've compiled so many different questions. And I bet one of the questions or thoughts that you have had is in that report. So you want to go read it and take the time to read it.
Yeah, and I know we probably are going to have like a commercial that we pre-recorded for you, but if you're listening to this podcast and you want to try Skimmer for free, we've done a deal with Lauren where anyone who listens to this can try Skimmer for free. And so if you want to do that, I think it's getskimmer.com/
Lauren Broom.
Lauren Broom, right?
Yeah. And you click on that and they get 30 days, I think,
Yep, you can try Skimmer. You can have access to our support. Yeah, you can try it out and give it a whirl.
And they've got so many cool things now. They've partnered with Orenda, so you can use the LSI calculator that we all love from Orenda. It's integrated. They've had a lot of different integrations, and they're constantly adding new
We
things all
are.
the time.
We just launched a customer portal so your customers can self-serve and see all their history and manage their billing and their payments, and their cards on file. We just launched new features this morning to help customers have better insight into billing and to get paid faster. So there's a ton of stuff in the works. You know, we took that investment from Mainsail and we are hiring like crazy, or we're really beefing up our product and engineering teams to make sure that we can deliver what it is that our 30,000 plus users are asking for.
Yeah, there's so many different things, even being, and please, again, I want to bring it back at the end here. They've got that on the deck, the pool deck community. It's called the pool deck community. Please join that. I'm in there, and there's lots of other professionals. Like there's somebody that like knows a lot about QuickBooks and there.
Sharon Birch is in there. She's a QuickBooks expert. Pool Monopoly guys are in there. You're in there. Michelle Kavanaugh's in there. Like people are in the industry. It's a great place to go and have discussions about industry topics.
It's free, and you can ask questions to professionals like that about business decisions that you're trying to make, or water chemistry, or anything like that. So we're trying to grow that community. It's not something that they make money off of. It was something to give the pool pros a place to have that's friendly and everything else, and very educational at the same time. They'll post the webinars in there. Some of the webinars are specific to the pool deck community. I've done a couple for the pool deck community as well.
Yeah, we do workshops. We're spinning up roundtables in there, regional roundtables. So really good stuff. There's all kinds of like cool Skimmer tips. You know, we've got our support staff, members of our support staff in there. So if it has to do with the pool industry, that's a great place. And I will say it's much friendlier than Facebook for sure.
Some of the groups can be a little interesting, we'll just say.
Yeah, right.
All right, awesome. So much. Thank you for being on the podcast today, Niki. I always love having you guys on. It's such a great, awesome conversation. And I really feel like this episode really helps our pool service pros and pool builders and just everybody in the industry overall every year that we have this on. So I'm really excited when this goes up, because I know people are going to be downloading and listening to something and then going to this report and getting a lot of information. We're going to be helping people with their businesses. That excites me, doesn't it?
That's our goal. That's our mission. Help our pool pros, empower them to build great businesses. That's what we do.
Yes, that's everything that, and we partner. We're in different spaces, but I'm in the same place on the education side. And so we partner together through the podcast, which is awesome.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Skimmer, for being a strategic podcast sponsor for 4 years. I'm so thankful for you guys so much. And I hope everybody understands what that means. I'm so thankful over the years for that support.
Well, we're happy to support you, Lauren. You're awesome. So thanks for all that you do as well.
And I can't wait to see you in Florida coming up at the last conference really for the year, I think. Like
everything under the sun.
Yeah, then we get a little break, right? And start focusing on other things. Well, thank you so much, Niki, and you have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye, Lauren.
Bye.
Thanks for diving in today with the Let's Talk About Pools podcast. Be sure to follow us on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. And feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts so more aquatic professionals like you can learn about the show. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Let's Talk About Pools podcast.